Welcome to the E-Community Podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Tsague. By the way, I know you used to see me wearing a jacket, but today I had to wear my theme. Now, this is the old logo, but since I'm going to do a few days with Art, you got a new one. Oh, man. So, and I'm wearing this old shirt because Art did not send us a shirt this year as trustees. So, well, Art, welcome to the podcast. We continue part 2 of Invested with Purpose, and we're doing Art last year, I think a year before last, we released a book called Invested with Purpose. And this book really walks through Art's life story and how he built the Timothy Plan, as well as just some of the nuances around building a company. So this is an entrepreneurship book. It's a book about the importance of making sure that your heart and your life is invested in the things of God. And then also make sure that your finances are invested in the things of God. I heard a lot of comments from you guys when we had our last time. So we're going to do part 2 today. And we're going to go as much as we can. We're going to try to keep bringing Art to the studio until we kind of finish the book. So if you have comments or questions, please share them. While we have Art here, we'll discuss them. So today, last podcast, we dealt with that New Year's Eve, where Art almost lost everything. And by the grace of God, things turn around. So if you didn't watch that or didn't listen to that, go back to part 1, and you kind of hear that story of those early beginnings. Well, today we're going to move on to chapter 2 of the book, which is Money as a Soul Concern. Money of a Soul Concern. And what I'm going to do before I ask Art a few questions, I'm going to read the foundation scripture. And in the book there, every chapter has an introductory paragraph that kind of sets the stage. I'm going to read that, and I'm going to ask Art a question. This is a part that's very keen to who Art is. So Matthew 16:26 says this: "What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul?" And the opening paragraph of the book states this: "In our journey to being invested with purpose, we must make sure we have the right priorities. Many begin with proper motives, but eventually compromise over financial gain or lack thereof." The Bible states the Bible states money or mammon has the potential to compete directly with the Almighty God for our loyalty. We must choose now which master we will serve before we get too far on our journey. If not, we'll find ourselves turning money into our master. Whether we're in business, a professional career, a nonprofit service, we can all become victims of mammon's temptation, no matter how much money we have or don't have, especially those of us in the financial services industry. We must make sure we pursue our purpose with the right motives, that we have the right attitude about money. The Bible warns us about those whose sole purpose is acquiring riches instead of a service to others and honoring God. And of course, a lot of the information in this particular chapter is taken from Art's book, Biblical Stewardship, the course that Art talked about last time, Biblical Stewardship. And by the way, if you've not yet gone through Biblical Stewardship and you want to go through it, it's free of charge. If you go through the Timothy Plan, if you come to Nehemiah, you have to pay for it. So if you go to the Timothy Plan website, so team, put the Timothy Plan website up. You can just go there. There it is, timothyplan.com. Timothyplan.com. You don't have to join anything. You don't have to be a member of anything. Just go there. You have access to that course at no cost to you. Art, money as the sole concern. How dangerous, Art, is money when we make that a priority?
Well, you've already given the whole thing. I mean, that was a good job, Patrice.
I just read the book.
But, you know, what we've learned over the years, and everybody knows or should know this, that money is Satan's greatest bondage hold on Christians and non-Christians alike. And we are, because all of our training comes from the world on handling money, not from the church, unfortunately. That's why we wrote the Biblical Stewardship. And the world is run by who? We know who runs this world.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder we get in a mess. And money does not just have the potential to get us off track. It is stronger than that. And most people, because of their understanding of handling money from the world's perspective, would give a testimony something like this: if only I had more money, then I would be happy. Well, if that is true, and it's not, if it is true though, explain to me, Patrice, why a lot of the wealthiest people in the world are the most miserable.
Wow. Art, in the book, you mention all these scriptures. I think the exact number is 2,300 scriptures, verses that refers to money in the Bible. Why did Jesus Christ talk about money so much? Was it because he wanted to make sure that we understand it, or was it because he felt we needed it? I mean, why so many references on money in the Bible?
Well, it's because he's pretty smart, right? I mean, there's more said about money, and it is around that many verses: money, property, all of that. More is said about that than any other subject for a reason. And you just stated it. Where do we have our greatest problems? What is more central to our life than money? And the answer is nothing. The spiritual answer, well, the Lord is central to my life. Yeah, well, show me what you're doing with your money and we'll see how central he really is. And it is very clear. And one of my favorite scriptures is, I want you to be content with what you have. And when you're chasing more money to find happiness, you don't find contentment there, because whenever you make more money, Patrice, what do you want? And I think this is pandemic, to use the word that's currently floating around today, among Christians and non-Christians. If only I had more money. And when you make that, what do you want? You want more. And when you make that, what do you want? More. It can never lead to contentment. The Lord knew where we'd have our greatest struggles, and that's why Scripture is full of references to how to biblically handle money. The problem is the church today, either through lack of comfort, lack of knowledge, lack of something, rarely addresses any of the money scriptures when the people sitting out in their congregation are struggling with those issues. You go to church regularly, I do, you hear a great sermon, you go home feeling good, and then smack, Monday morning comes and you're hit back with your money problems again. And that is really theoretical for your faith. Money dominates our thoughts, unfortunately.
Wow.
Money is one of the biggest reasons for prisons being full. Money is probably the largest reason for the divorce rate being as high as it is. It leads to discontent because we do it the world's way. That's why we wrote this biblical stewardship study course.
And the exact percentage that Art mentioned in the book is 15% of scriptures in the Bible that relates to money. Art, but you are in the money.
Patrice, that's 15% of Christ's words himself.
That's right. That's Christ's word.
Okay.
Now, Art, you're in the money business, and people come to you because they're trying to either save, invest, and so isn't that a little bit of conflict? I mean, so how do I participate in the market or in mutual funds like biblical stewardship without having my heart attached to money? How do I balance those two?
Well, first, Patrice, you come in and we'll give you a little counseling on that and get you all better. By the way, folks, Patrice and I joke a lot. Can't help it. But to answer your question, There is nothing inherently evil about money. It is what makes the world go round. It's how we operate. It's how we run our families. It's why we work for a living, why we do savings, why we try to stay out of debt, why enables us to be more generous in our giving to support ministries. Money is not evil. The problem comes with our attitude about it and our understanding of how to handle it. And when that comes from the perspective of the world, which is run by Satan, we are going to go off track and actually end up in a bit of a mess. And I don't think anything can cause a stress level like money can. Lack of money. You lose your job. You lose your source of income. You go into depression. I mean, you need money to operate, but there is the biblical way of handling it. And then there's the world's way, and you choose. God gave us free will.
Ooh, I love it. Again, we're talking to Art Alley about invested with purpose. This is part 2 of our discussion. And today we're talking about money as a sole concern. And then next, we're going to talk about debt. Now, if you want more information about this book, you can go ahead and you can get it from Amazon, or you can use the link right there on my website. You can get the book. If you want more information about biblical stewardship or the Timothy Plan, you can visit Timothy at timothyplan.com. There you can learn about the screens, all the things that they do. But more importantly, you can get a free resource, this biblical stewardship guide, that gives you a comprehensive, it includes videos, all the handouts, all that at no cost to you. You can get that at the Timothy Plan website. Art, the book concludes with the 2 questions. What's your attitude towards money on this chapter? And are you its master, or does it matter? Or does it master you? And so this is something that as you guys read this book, that you need to ponder upon. And then it said, remember, money cannot be our sole concern. It must be, I like this, a sole concern of the soul. Our primary goal is to be good stewards of the kingdom of God. If not, it will wreck our purpose. And that was Art talked about. Now, and then Art gets into the ways of debt. Again, this is another take on a chapter that really comes out of the biblical stewardship guide. It begins with Proverbs 22:7, the rich rule of the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Now, Art opens it up with these leading statements. Debt is an enemy of our purpose of life. It robs of our margin, holds us back from our passion, and threatens our loyalty to God. In fact, debt may well pose the greatest threat to being invested with purpose. Even in the United States, a great superpower, we risk our national security due to uncontrolled debt. Art, how dangerous is debt to us personally, as well as to our nation even so?
Oh, Patrice, we could spend the next 4 hours on that one. But let's back up a step and why are people in debt? And it goes back to doing things the world's way. And the world's way will teach you that you always deserve more. And when you have that, you need more. And you can pay for it with your resources. But when you run out of resources, you don't have to stop getting more. You can get more by simply doing it on credit and going into debt. And people today have been so programmed by all the advertising and the enticements of you need this and you need this new thing and this is great and all of that. And there's nothing to stop you from getting that. Because what they focus on is not the amount of debt that you're in. They focus on, well, it's only this much a month and you can surely afford that. And as a result, people end up head over heels in debt. And in fact, I do put an example, I think I did in the book, Patrice, about our attitude about purchasing something. And it is so common to people. And I think the example I used was, let's suppose you find a sweater you really like and you want to buy it. And it's $85, but it's on sale for $30. And then it begs the question, how much did you save? And most people would respond, well, I saved $55. And the answer is, no, you didn't. You didn't save anything. You spent $30. And too many people have saved themselves into financial bondage. On a personal level, it is a huge problem. And when you're in debt, you've got pressures that you just ought not to have. 4 generations, 3 generations ago, our ancestors would never think of going into debt. If they couldn't afford something, they just did without until they could save up and buy it. Unfortunately, it's cultural now, and that extends to, answer your other question, our federal government. And that is a huge concern every citizen in America ought to have. And it is the level of our national debt. It is beyond the ability to ever repay, ever. And with all of this bailout stuff that's coming, that's going to help people make it through. And, I have no objection to helping people make it through. But they're creating trillions of dollars out of thin air. And that just adds to our national debt. And the problem, and I think I explained this in the book, Patrice, is people have no way of relating to that amount of debt. You use the word trillion, it has no meaning. Trillion is just a word, but trillion is a very, very big number. And to put it in perspective, I believe I put the example in the book. If you had a machine that would print non-stop $1 every second, 60 seconds a minute, 60 minutes an hour, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, nonstop, just print, 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 dollar, 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 dollar. How long do you think people watching this, without us telling you, it would take to print $1 trillion? Not the 30 trillion we're probably in debt by now. $1 trillion. How long would that take? And Patrice, you've seen this, right? You don't remember probably, but
it's right here in front of me, actually.
Oh, well, but don't look at that. How much time would the average person guess it would take to print $1 trillion? And the average person would answer something like, and I've asked this question over and over in front of audiences, 5 years, 10 years. And the really wild ones guess 100 years. To print $1 trillion at the rate of $1 a second would take 31,710 years. It is a huge number. Wow. And I don't think all the elected, or very few, if any of the elected officials in Washington, D.C. have a clue of that. It's just they have no business background. They have, well, I like to say they don't have any common sense either, but there are some that do. But, they have bankrupted our nation by continuing this freewheeling spending. And the reason they do it in too many cases, I know one party in particular that I won't mention, they don't give a rip about anybody. They don't care about people. It's to get reelected. And if you keep giving people money, they will keep voting for you. And you get to a point where you reach the end of the line and you can't pay it back. And we are past that point now. We're in financial trouble, and you cannot borrow your way out of debt.
The wages of debt. Art, one of the things I appreciate about the Trinity Plan, and even advisors that work with you, you encourage people to put their priority on becoming debt-free, or at least getting the debt under control before they start investing. Could you clarify on that? Because, I would think, logic says, well, start investing now. But you say, no. First, become debt free, or at least get under control. Why is that? Why is that priority important for those who are listening, watching? They're saying, I want to start investing now.
Well, the reason it's important, Patrice, is because it works. There is a formula if you want to be successful. I am risk adverse. If you want to be successful in your investing program, the formula has never changed. Number one, get out of debt. Debt is very expensive. It drains you. The interest rate, no matter what they are in today's low rates, it's still money that you're not having access to. It is the cost of borrowing. Get out of debt. You won't, if you're completely debt free, including your home, but be debt free and then accelerate the payment of your mortgage. Think about it. If you're debt free with a paid for home, you don't have to make much money to make it through in today's world. And that takes a whole lot of stress out of your life. Then step two is, as you're getting out of debt, build up an adequate reserve of cash money that you can access when things happen. The car breaks down, the refrigerator breaks, whatever happens. So you don't have to go back into debt to get it fixed. So if you're out of debt and have adequate cash reserves to take care of those things that inadvertently always happen, then you're in a position to begin investing.
Wow.
If we have time, I'll tell you a quick story that just came to mind, but it's up to you.
Go ahead, please. You're on the road. This is good stuff.
Okay. Well, this happened a couple years ago. You know, we have our staff takes care of people when they call in, and everybody was tied up and busy. And, you know, I'll take the calls. I mean, I love to talk to people, but they don't give me the calls very often. But one day, everybody was tied up. So this lady was calling in, and I was available. So they put her through to me. I think most people on our staff are afraid to put people through to me because, you know, they know kind of my attitude about things. So she says, you know, I've been wanting to invest, and I need to know what your minimum is. And I said, well, you know, if it's non-retirement dollars, our minimum is $1,000 to get started, and then you can add whatever you want from that point forward. And she said, oh, good. I just got it. And I couldn't resist, Patrice. I says, well, and I used her name. I forget what it is now. Would you mind if I'd ask you a question? And she said, sure. I said, it sounds to me like you've just accumulated that $1,000. Well, that's right. Do you have any other cash reserves? No, I just accumulated the $1,000. Do you have any outstanding debts? Oh yeah, we have car payments and some furniture payments, and of course our home, and, you know, some credit card bills. I said, well, let me make a suggestion if you want to be successful. What is that, sir? Just what we talked about, Patrice. Get out, before you worry about investing, get out of debt and establish an adequate emergency fund. And, you know, then you're in a position to have a successful investment. Well, she thanked me, hung up the phone. And that's only the foundation of the story. The next day, we get a phone call from some guy who sounds really, really angry. And he says, I want to talk to the guy that talked to my wife yesterday. You know, he's just a gruff sounding fellow. And they sorted it around and finally figured out it was me.
It was the boss.
So they gave me his call. He says, are you the fellow that talked to my wife yesterday and told her she shouldn't invest? I said, well, I'm not sure, but if it was a lady that called that just had the $1,000, I can't tell anybody not to invest, but I did make a suggestion. And that guy says, sir, I just called to thank you for giving her good advice, but she's a stubborn woman and she's going to invest anyway. but I wanted to call and tell you that. So you never know who you're talking to. God gave us free will and we can do what we want. But the formula works, Patrice, and that's what I would highly recommend for anybody contemplating investing.
Guys, I'm not sure if you pick up something here. This is just rich stuff. Again, we have the founder himself, the CEO of the Timothy Plan, Art Ali. First of all, he also answers the phone at Timothy. So, Art, let's first, you just kind of went past that one. So you are the chairman of the board. I know that the Lord is a chairman, but you stand on his behalf at board meetings. You are the CEO of the company, the founder of the company, and sometimes the phone gets routed to you. That is impressive. That's servant leadership. Did you guys hear that? I want you to catch that. The key to successful business. You're never too big to be a servant. But then the second thing, Art, most people would want to encourage them to invest money because that's how you make money. But you push them towards principles because that's what you believe. Now, that is kingdom business.
Patrice, you never go wrong by doing right.
Oh, wow.
And on what you just said, we are committed. Well, Christ is the chairman of the board. No buts after that statement.
Okay.
And so that puts a responsibility on us to not dishonor him. Too many businesses do things very sloppily or offhandedly to try to make a bunch of money, and they use Jesus like a fish on your shirt sleeve. That's not honoring him. He deserves our best. And the one thing that is the foundation of Timothy, and anybody can call in anytime and talk to any of our personnel and ask them, what business are you in? Well, we do mutual funds, we do investing, but the business we're in is the service business. If we ever lose sight of that, we really ought to be shutting our doors.
Well said. Again, I'm talking to Timothy Art Ali, the president founder of Timothy Plan. We're talking about invested with purpose. This is part 2, and we're talking about this incredible book that talks about Art's story, how he built the company, talks about what makes up the Timothy Plan, and really gives you instructional guidelines how you can live your life and also be invested with purpose. If you want more information about the Timothy Plan, you can visit their website, timothyplan.com, timothyplan.com. If you want to get the book, Invested with Purpose, you can go to Amazon, or you can go to the Nehemiah website, and there you can get the book as well. Art talked about biblical stewardship, that addresses debt, saving, investing, all kinds of things in helping you take control of your finance and be a better financial steward. You can get that for free by going to the Timothy Plan website at timothyplan.com. Art concludes this particular chapter on the wages of debt with these questions. He says, how well do you have finances? How well do you have finances? How well do you have your finances under control? Are you free from debt? Remember, you will never experience real freedom if you are bound by debt. Our purpose will be compromised, and our obligations are out of control. Being invested with purpose is a path to freedom. To the contrary, indebtedness can rob us of our freedom. You see, invested with purpose is a play on words. It's not just about you investing your money, but first investing your life to purpose, what God's purpose, God's call. That's what made Art a success. He responded to God's call, God's purpose. And then secondly, aligning your resources towards God's purpose. And you'll find out how Art did that himself throughout this book. I'm going to hit one more chapter and I'm going to let Art go. The third chapter of this book, Art talks about what is biblically responsible. As a matter of fact, no, I'm going to save this chapter for next time because I don't want to rush this one because this is the heart of the matter. Art, I don't want to rush that one because that's the heart of the matter. And I want to take my time with that one. Art, there are many people listening and watching. They're from all over the world, and they've heard you talk about money as a sole concern today. Heard you talk about the wages of death. Not death, of debt. What, somebody right now may be in debt and they're, having heard this, they feel convicted, guilty, and frustrated. What encouragement would you say to them as we conclude here? Give them, encourage them, Art. We don't want to leave on a downside.
Well, never, Patrice, do we want to do that. But, debt, you didn't get into debt overnight. We do live in an instant gratification world. You think you can wiggle your nose or instantly get out of debt. You didn't get there overnight. You will not get out of debt overnight. But the longest journey starts with the first step. If you begin and make the commitment to don't be buying stuff that you don't need. When you're tempted to buy something, give it a day and you'll find out you really didn't want it all that much anyway. But just stop adding to the debt and begin the process of getting out of debt. It is not hard to do, but it will take a while. But once you do, then you have freedom, because the Lord is very clear. The borrower is servant to the lender. You can never be free. And that inhibits your giving. It inhibits your ability to serve the Lord in other ways. It puts pressure on you. You got to make so much money just to make ends meet. Well, the ends meet is probably because you got a lot of debts that you ought to be eroding. And the best way to get out of debt is eliminate the smallest one first. Don't be paying just your minimum. Pay as much as you can. And if you eliminate the smallest one first, then attack the next smallest, and then attack the next smallest, and you'll feel some real progress. Get all the consumer debt out of the way, and then start accelerating paying off your home mortgage, which is your biggest debt. And you do that by just paying more. Don't be stuck on paying just the minimum payment every month, or it'll take you 30 years to get out. Pay extra, and it accelerates your paying off of your house. Get out of debt is the best advice I can give anybody, because then you're truly free. You're free to do all the Lord would like to see you do. But when you're in bondage, it is very difficult to do that.
Wow. Good advice. Art, thank you so much. Hey, listen, if you want more information about the Timothy Plan, again, go to timothyplan.com. There you can get this free resource called Biblical Stewardship. And this resource goes into more details. It has videos, it has workbooks. It really equips and empowers you towards your journey to being in financial control, thus enjoying freedom. It even talks about giving. By the way, if you're a pastor, you lead a church, and you listen and watch this podcast, it's a great resource to work your congregation through, because it does help them get in financial control. There are many testimonies of churches and pastors who've used this material, and they've experienced financial freedom for their church and ministry. It's free of charge. Because of the Timothy Plan. Just go to www.timothyplan.com. If you want to get the book Invested with Purpose, go to amazon.com. There you can get the soft copy, or you can get the hard copy. Or you can click that link and go to the Nehemiah website, and there you can get the book as well. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. Art, we're going to have you come back, please, because we're going to need to deal with the other section of the chapters. Don't leave yet, though. I want to pray for you. Before I do, if you want more information about the Nehemiah Project, how we can come alongside you and help you to become invested with purpose in your business, go to Nehemiah on ecommunity.com, NehemiahEcommunity.com. There you can learn about our training program, from biblical entrepreneurship all the way to identity and destiny, or how we can help you with your existing business or to start a new one. Or our coaching program. We can come alongside you and coach you to grow your business, or to align your business with kingdom values. Or you can learn about an access to capital solution, where we can provide direct capital to you if you've been trained and you have a coach and you demonstrate good stewardship. And by the way, getting out of debt is one of the best ways to prepare yourself to raise capital. Yeah. Having said that, you can also learn about our community, how you can come alongside, you become a part of our community, which is a growing entrepreneurship community, about 1,000 of us now who are part of this community, where we're connecting and plugging together on a daily basis as we work together to transform the world. With that said, let me pray for you. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord enable you to steward your talents that He's placed under your care, so that you can be invested with purpose. And steward those talents in such a way that one day you can hear those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things." Guess what? You cannot make you rule over much. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lord.
Amen.
you.